The Revolution of 1918, following the abdication of Kaiser Wilhelm II, was a pivotal moment in the history of Germany. The question I am asking is, what really happened following Germany's defeat in World War I, and was the resulting success of the extreme right inevitable? In this video, I will outline Germany's forgotten revolution and illustrate why it should enter more prominently into the discussion of German history. On August 8, 1918, French, Australian, and Canadian troops advanced with tank support through a dense fog to break the German lines at Albert and Morel. Following this defeat, General Ludendorff confronted the Kaiser with a stark reality. Germany could no longer sustain the war, and it must find a favorable solution. Despite intense pride in his Prussian roots, the Kaiser agreed with Ludendorff's assessment that the fight could not be continued. To this point, Germany has suffered approximately 4 million casualties to instruments of war, and nearly 1.4 million were listed as war wounded. In addition to the terrible cost paid by soldiers on the front, food shortages in Germany brought the suffering back home. Import statistics from 1913 showed a country heavily dependent on importing food to feed its population. In total, a heavily industrialized Germany imported over $1 billion in raw materials while exporting over $1.5 billion in industrial goods. After the war began, a country which could not feed itself had to rely completely on its own resources to fuel its massive army and population. This resulted in countrywide food shortages and widespread unrest, particularly during the Turnip War of 1916 through 17. Soon, the political truce declared at the outset of the war between the SPD and the cartel was beginning to unravel. On September 29th, the Supreme High Command of the German Army demanded a request for an immediate ceasefire. This announcement shocked both sides of the political spectrum. To allow the monarchy to save face and perhaps save the monarchy itself, the decision to democratize was made. Chancellor Georg von Hertling presided over the liberalization process until it was evident he was not capable of handling the situation and was replaced by Prince Max Baden. Baden made one last attempt to save the empire through internal democratization, acceptance of the League of Nations, and the opening of negotiations with the Allies before the Western Front collapsed. The empire had become a parliamentary monarchy by now. Before liberalization could be accomplished, however, Ludendorff demanded an armistice and appealed to U.S. President Woodrow Wilson for a truce, but in the end rejected the American president's terms. By this time, discontent among the people and the military was growing, and calls for the Kaiser's abdication grew louder. On November 3, 1918, sailors of the German Navy mutinied against their commanders and sparked a revolution. Soon, Bremen and Hamburg revolted, and then all of northern Germany and Bavaria. President Ebert and Prince Baden proclaimed the Kaiser's abdication on November 9, 1918. Wilhelm rejected this action, but his cries fell on deaf ears. SPD politician Philipp Scheidemann announced that Germany had become a republic, and the Hohenzollern family was no longer in power. While order was largely maintained, the future of Germany was still very much in doubt. Now that the stage is set, who are the actors in this drama? Well, on the left, there were the socialists. German socialism in the early 20th century could be divided into three distinct groups with distinct interpretations of the works of Marx and Engels. Majority socialists, independent socialists, and Spartacans represented the left during this period of political unrest. The disunity among the German political left resulted from a lack of consensus about how to seize power. The SPD, led by Ebert, advocated only democratic means to attain control and had previously supported the war. The independents, led by Hugo Hasse, renounced the government and opposed funding the war effort, leading to the ultimate split in the SPD in 1917. Lastly, the Spartacans, led by Karl Liebknecht and Rosa Luxemburg, were the most radical of the German left. The Spartacans' platforms shared much in common with the Bolsheviks, and they drew a sharp dividing line between themselves and the independents. Liebknecht and Luxemburg would go on to found the Communist Party of Germany, furthering this divide. In short, the socialists on the eve of the revolution seemed more in competition with themselves than the conservative opposition on the right. Opposing the left in the revolution was the nationalist Freikorps. These former soldiers despised the socialists and saw the new government as a betrayal of the nation. These volunteer units were organized by what remained of the German officer class and were equipped with what remained of the wartime arsenal. Many were highly politically motivated. Others simply did not feel they had a home to return to. While the radicals and moderates on the left fought over the new socialist direction of Germany, German soldiers began to return from the front in large number with varying political allegiances. Tensions flared and fighting occurred on December 23rd over sailors' paychecks. This, however, was only a precursor to the January Revolt, or the Spartacist Uprising as it came to be known. On January 9th, mass demonstrations, sparked by general discontent with the SPD-led government, resulted in an attempt to overthrow this government by Liebknecht and the KPD. Ebert's Minister of War, Gustav Noska, immediately mobilized loyal Freikorps units who put the uprising down with brutal efficiency. The effectiveness of the Freikorps in combating the uprising was aided by the general lack of organization and cooperation on the far left. Luxemburg herself argued against encouraging the revolt, while Liebknecht simply let it happen. The results were 156 dead Germans in the streets of Berlin. The Freikorps then swiftly put down all agitations by other socialist groups across the country. The SPD had entered into an awkward relationship with those on the right, but it stayed in power and established the ill-fated Weimar Republic soon after. So we return to our original question then. Was Germany fated to become a country dominated by right-wing politics? Although many would argue that the conditions caused by World War I led to the ultimate failure of the left and the triumph of the right in post-war Germany, a more detailed and nuanced analysis of the participants shows that, although the socialists enjoyed popular support comparable to that of the conservatives, infighting and a lack of cooperation prevented the socialists from realizing their goals. The Zondervan contention that Germany's historical arc ensured the rise of National Socialism is opposed by the fact that Germany very nearly became a socialist country, if not for the betrayal of Friedrich Ebert.